think we can safely say for the first time in about a decade, not going to go into a season knowing the Guardians catcher is going to hit ninth, and whatever offense you get from him is just a bonus. We're talking Guardians catchers as we start our 2024 position player preview series.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show today. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, our good old friends over at FanDuel. Today's, as I said, make every moment more. New customers join today, and you'll get $150 in bonus bets. If your first bet of $5 or more wins, visit FanDuel.com/lockdown to get started today. Can we really say it's been a decade? I don't know. Like that 2019 Roberto Perez year, I think was the last time we got a good. I mean, no, not coming off as 2018. I guess that's the thing, because what was 2018 the year that Yan Gomes had his rebound, right? So we actually got good production in 18 and 19.
Yeah, they traded him to Washington at the end of that
Washington,
season. Yeah.
And I was such a Daniel Johnson mark for people who are like, you'll never admit when you get things wrong. No, I thought Daniel Johnson was the truth. Here. And I was nope.
Yeah.
But
Gomes' offensive prowess and Perez's season was a little unexpected. Nobody expected what Gomes did. I just think this is the first time coming into a season that you expect to have a catcher that is going to contribute offensively. Like the last time we could say that was Carlos Santana, and
I felt like maybe like those first before Rajai Davis ran over Yan Gomes, we tend to forget like that's who ruined Yan Gomes. Like those first few years, I guess it wasn't as good as I thought. Like that first year was
Rajai Davis ruined Yan Gomes. When
wasn't he? He was the one who took out Yan Gomes, caused that first injury on him when he collided with him when Davis was with the Tigers.
Oh, I don't know if I remember that. Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of a forgotten little piece of lore, but it's like those first 2 years when he was 25 and 26. He had a 131 OPS plus, a 117 OPS plus in 2013-14, and then just death until 2018. Like
he won
off a cliff.
He won a Silver Slugger. I mean, okay, so after he had the breakouts, I guess you could sit there and say that you expected.
But those were still a decade ago, so yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, it's been a long time, really. So I guess a decade for Gomes. I was going to go back to Santana. Gomes was good, you're right, but I was going to go back to the days of Santana.
Yeah, it was.
It was expectations for catching.
2015 when Rajai Davis caused a sprain MCL. Gomes came back too quickly. I just, and then he was never quite the same guy. It was not quite Ray Fosse and Pete Rose, but Yan Gomes definitely had a decline after Rajai Davis took him out. That's why it was funny to me when he became like a.
He's had a bit of a rebound recently.
He had a huge rebound with that home run in Game 7. But man, we've gotten away from Bo Naylor, who's the most exciting hitting prospect this team has produced since
Lindor.
Probably. I mean, it's like because Lindor and Jose came up quicker, but he had the up and down where once Lindor was here, he was here to stay. So it's like they kind of debuted roughly ish. Like
Jose debuted in 2013.
He did, but then he was
2 years before Lindor.
He was,
but he didn't stick.
No, he debuted as fill in the gap after he traded Asdrubal, and then he played well, and then he was awful, and they set him down, and then he was up, and he was a backup role. Essentially, until they're like, here, try third, and then he kind of took off from there. But
I mean, they
tried similar timelines.
But yeah, so yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm as excited for Bo Naylor. I'm excited to watch Bo Naylor as I am any player on this roster. Like obviously people are excited about Manzardo. Jose is Jose. The pitching staff is fun. We are the Locked On Bitey podcast sometimes. I'm as excited to watch Bo Naylor as I am anybody on this team, and I think he's going to be a big reason if this team takes a step forward offensively and just kind of, climbs back into contention and in the wide open AL Central. I know the bar for that's a little lower, but I'm really curious.
It's as low as the limbo bar they had at the birthday party my daughter went to, who's 6 the other week.
Which is what, a 4 foot tall. Yeah, it's pretty bad.
It's low.
I don't know. I'm just excited to see what happens with him. You and I both were super high on him as a prospect, and a lot of people kind of jumped off the bandwagon after that poor 2021, which I understand because it was bad.
I was
There were
one of
bad
them.
indicators.
I was
Yeah,
one of them. I'll be honest.
I'm not going to sit here and take a victory lap for saying that I didn't jump off the bandwagon, because my explanation was he's a catcher. They were coming off the pandemic, and he was 21 at AA. That's not to say that there weren't concerns and red flags in the profile, but it was more like, I'm going to give this a mulligan and see what happens. And it turned out that he's a great athlete, a hard worker, and a really good player. And he's always been young for the level, and Cleveland's challenged him. But there are just so many fun indicators with Bo Naylor that I don't even know where to start. Where, if you want to get some hyperbole, and I got a couple things I want to get to with Naylor, but I don't want to go too far just yet.
One of those things I want to throw out there, I know anyone who's been listening to the show for a while has heard us talk about BABIP and how BABIP regression is one of those things. It's very easy to spot. It's one of those things we're on the lookout for, because we saw it with Andres. Wow, that was terrible. We saw it with Jimenez. We saw it with Quan. Like, this is one of those things that's easy to tell. It's why we still believe that Benson and Jones are going to be good players, but we think not as good as they were. I say all of this to say Naylor's BABIP showed that he was unlucky last year, so he could hit even better this year. For his athleticism, a 267 is below average. That overall one, I believe, is 267. We see it, yeah. It's trending up closer to 300 for a league average. So, but I mean, you still look about 290, 295. So he was unlucky last year.
Even in his second half, he had a 531. I'm sorry, he had an 893 OPS in the second half. His BABIP in the second half was only 262. It was actually worse. In the first half, when he only had a 58 WRC plus, his BABIP was 281, which is a little more normal. So he got better and his BABIP went down, which is mind blowing to me. The strikeouts came down in the second half, the walks went up. He really settled in. So I mean, that's not to say there's not going to be growing pains. Let's not go into this and say like, hey, Bo Naylor is going to be a top 5 catcher in the league and he's going to be a borderline all-star, because he is going to be a second-year player, and there are some concerns, especially with the platoon splits. Like, he didn't hit lefties well in the minors. So that's one of my question marks for him this year, along with what we're going to look for defensively. Because, he's a pretty good framer. He has a good enough arm. He's got to be a little more accurate with the arm, a little more consistent. Blocking is kind of an issue for him. And at some point, framing is not going to matter because you're going to have robo arms. So he's got to shift away from the focus on
a little
framing.
Bit of laziness with just kind of foot movement, getting the ball, those things.
Is it laziness, or is it relying on your athleticism to get to the to do that?
I don't know. Like, we saw him throw the ball. I mean, it's both. Like, I mean, we definitely saw, like, remember that one when he was in AAA to start the year, and it's like he just kind of he didn't even try. Like, the ball just got past. Remember what you said? You're the one who actually sent me that clip. It's like, yeah, like, that's just one of those things that we. It concerns me. I think he'll be fine long term. There's room for improvement. He's far from a finished product at this point, but I do think the defense is really the question at this point. And I mean, I think it's good enough. He's never going to win an award, but is it enough? Yeah, absolutely.
It's enough because of the athleticism, because of the work ethic and the makeup. I mean, this is a guy who went out and learned Spanish to communicate with his Spanish-speaking pitchers better. This guy has all the initiative. That's why I really love to see what's next for him. Here's my other 2 questions. We talked about the defense and possibly the left-handed issues. And we want to get to some other guys on this roster too. We're not going to just talk Bo Naylor the whole show, but he is the star of the show today. But my other 2 questions are this: managing his workload this year. But my bigger question is, I think we talked about this briefly. How soon do you sign Bo Naylor to an extension? Because to you, and I think we talked about this, he might be the guy on your roster right now that is the most prime candidate. People talk about Kyle Manzaro and extending Josh Naylor. I think it's Bo Naylor, because this is my theory. I think we could safely say in the American League, Adley Rutschman is going to be the cream of the crop. No, like, he is going to be the number 1 catcher in the American League for
foreseeable future.
So, can you get Bo Naylor to agree to an extension now if you believe in him? Because Adley Rutschman has not signed an extension yet. Get Bo Naylor his extension before Adley Rutschman sets the market. Obviously, Bo is not going to make as much as Adley, but do it before Adley sets the market. You don't think so?
No.
Is he a Boris client?
I believe so. And like, remember, the owner has already basically said, like, I know
They have
there's
new
new
ownership,
ownership.
Jeff.
I
They
know.
do have new ownership.
I also think Adley Rushman is going to be someone who is not going to be in a rush to. I'm pretty sure he is Boris. I'll double check that now.
Yeah, I don't know what Naylor is.
Yeah,
Here, by the way, real quick.
he is.
Okay, so
No,
that's never happening. The only
no,
only
maybe
contract
he's not. Maybe it's that Boris represents Henderson and Holiday. I'm trying to look.
Okay.
Now I can.
The only catcher
No,
contract
he
I could
is
find
not.
out there as an extension for age 24 player as a catcher was last year was Keeper Ruiz, who signed an 8-year, $50 million deal. Do you lock up Bo Naylor into that kind of deal right now?
I mean,
Does he
if
take
that's
it?
what Keibert Ruiz gets, he should not take that deal.
Do you think Bo's worth more?
Yeah, I mean, Keibert Ruiz is a league average bat with okay
Good
defense.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're Bo, I mean, Ruiz is closer to free agency, and I gotta go look up at the actual defensive numbers to know for sure.
They were the same age. Ruiz signed that deal at age 24, which is exactly the same age as Bo.
That was what his second year in the big leagues. Yeah, he already has. I mean, last year was his second full season. He had time before that, so he's about 2.5 years. I mean, if he got that,
we're talking 880.
Like, if Keeper Ruiz gets 850 and Bo Naylor just coming off the year he had, like I said, I want to go look at Ruiz's defensive metrics, but I almost feel like if that's what he gets, then I want I'm asking for 100 for 8.
And you want to know what? I'd probably do it. I'm betting on the I think Cleveland likes everything that Bo Naylor has done to improve himself.
Keeper Ruiz is catching. His blocks above average, his caught stealing above average, his framing and pop time, all dark blue on Savant. So those are all terrible. So
that is not the case.
The highest percentile is 6 percentile, which is bad. Okay. His sprint speed's an 8. His batting run value, like his expected batting average is good. His sweet spot, his whiff, and his K. Everything else is very poor. And he got 850, then I'm asking for 8 for 100 if I am Bo, because Bo's just got such a higher ceiling. He already has had a better offensive season. Yeah, that's fair. I bet you his defensive metrics are better.
I know the framing for sure and the pop time probably are. So you give that kind of contract out, you're betting on the person to make it work, especially at Bo Naylor's age. We got some other catchers we want to get to as we continue to talk about the catcher position for our 2024 player previews. Hedges. We got to talk about Austin Hedges and everyone's favorite reliever, David Fry, and everyone's favorite prospect, Ralphy Velazquez.
Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all of your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. And this is what I'm going to tell you. They don't have it up yet, but I'm going to be paying attention as we get closer to draft season because the sports books know before anyone else does about who is going to be that top overall pick. So the minute those start posting, hit me up, let me know. I'm going to start tracking that heavily this year with Cleveland having the top pick. So the sports books know first. Go to FanDuel to see who Cleveland's going to draft. And also visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Shoot your shot, hit your home run. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of like every sport, but specifically NBA and Major League Baseball.
And Locked On Podcasts. Do we invent the catchphrase Mary Bazanmus? I don't know. I feel like we have to change our catchphrase.
I know. I had such a good one. I want to throw something really off topic out there. This is going to take like 1 minute. This is not a big thing. Next week I have T-Mobile. If you have T-Mobile, it was announced today. Next week will be sign up for the T-Mobile Life app. You can go get the MLB TV free. That's coming back next Tuesday. So I just want to throw that out there to all of our listeners. If you are a T-Mobile user, you get the whole year. This is my 3rd or 4th year in a row of getting it. I live in Milwaukee. So for me, hey, it's perfect. I don't have to deal with all of the Bally's fun that the rest of you do. I'm sorry you have to deal with that. But I did want to just throw that out there, start giving heads up and reminders. And I'll do that more than once. I'll remind people next week. But just keep that in mind. If you are a T-Mobile customer, you get MLB TV free, and it'll be available next week. Not sponsorship, just looking out for you. That's all.
Yeah, looking out for the fans and the listeners. I'm going to switch to T-Mobile. Their Super Bowl commercial had my favorite actors from Scrubs and Suits, and now they give away MLB TV. So like they're really speaking to me here. They're doing a great job.
We get so much random stuff like cups and things like that. Like every month and a half, they do like an item giveaway. And maybe it won't be exciting for you, but when you have a 6-year-old at home, like I literally have a T-Mobile shelf of cups, and she thinks it's the greatest thing in the world. Like it is.
My wife loves to collect random cups, so it is up our alley.
So it is. Hey, my daughter and your wife have this shared passion.
She'll love that. This is a good conversation to have between, how much they're going to play Bo Naylor, because ideally I would love to see Bo Naylor DH once a week too, to keep him off his feet, keep his bat in the lineup. And that's where we turn to Austin Hedges' role on this team. Like ideally, I think Austin Hedges is playing once a week, maybe twice if you're DHing Bo Naylor. And that's going to roll into our next question is, David Fry's fit. So we can talk about these two simultaneously, but I know people are going to get mad about they're paying for Austin Hedges, but by all accounts, this guy is super important to this team. He is well loved, and I understand a team that has limited spending power by their owners and spending that much money on a guy like Austin Hedges, but they're banking on the leadership, and hopefully you get a lot out of it. And I hope what they're doing is they're using it as a way to keep Bo Naylor's bat in the lineup while DHing him. That's my only hope.
Leadership. Remember, like Will Brennan, like, oh, it's amazing. We have this veteran here and this and that. It's like just what a big deal was made. And, Cole Calhoun, who hasn't surfaced anywhere, like all that was made about his veteran leadership, this team needed someone. And you get a guy that is known, loved, and it's $4 million. But you know what? That's less than they gave Brian Shaw a few years ago when Brian Shaw was not good either.
At the end.
So
he's still pitching. He's not at the end.
I mean, he was actually okay last year. Like, let's,
I'm surprised he's not back, honestly.
I'm sure he will. He'll make an appearance for the White Sox, but they have this history of giving these $4 to $5 million contracts out, and I will be curious to see how it works with him. But I mean, listen, his bat is dead. There's really no point to it. He might as well just go up there with an invisible bat, and he'll have just as high of a batting average.
He should dip it in something.
He should. This guy just needs to come out. He needs to come out covered in pine tar as a human being. Just, he could sit there and inject
Austin Hedges would do that.
He could inject himself with steroids before he came, like just in the batter's box. And I think other teams are like, he needs that help. It's been bad. But
it's better than Cam Gallagher.
Hey, Cam Gallagher still got a contract. Cam Gallagher made pitchers look like Barry Bonds.
Is this an F? Is this an F to a D? Like talk about like F's to C's. Is this an F to a D?
It's an F to an F, but okay. But it's the leadership. It's he's probably. Gallagher might have been a stronger defender. Like metrics really loved Gallagher a year ago. Hedges has had some natural decline. He is here to be a veteran leader. He's almost like an extra coach. You're hoping that he's very limited in what he does, and that it's going to be, he might be someone's personal catcher. We'll see how that goes. It's always interesting to watch. But otherwise, you're kind of hoping that, Fry showed some stuff in limited time, and you just wish he had been healthy. It's like Fry's the guy.
This time with the hammy. Yeah, I really hope he makes the roster, honestly, because it allows you to extend Bo Naylor's bat. And I also want to watch Steven Vogt with this too, because Tito was so afraid to use that third catcher. He always wanted that safety blanket on the bench in case something happened. And I understand that, but it's not taking advantage of your full roster. David Fry does a lot of things really well. He hits lefties. He can play the corners a little bit. He can stand in the outfield for like 5 innings, and he has the ability to catch. That makes him so valuable. And it allows you to just maximize your roster because you have that third catcher. You can, on days you don't want to catch Naylor, maybe you can catch Hedges and use Fry as your backup, or you catch Fry and Hedges can come in as the defensive replacement at the end of the game, and you can continue to have Bo DH. Like, it gives you that flexibility. And you can move Fry other places if you need some. If you need to, extend the platoon advantage to right field, to first base, you can do that with David a little bit too. So I think he's a valuable player. I feel like there hasn't been a lot written about him. Like, no one seems to believe he's going to break camp with the roster. I don't know if that's due to the fact that Nobody knows what they're going to do with the outfield or Manzardo and De Los Santos. But to me, David Fry has to have a role because it minimizes how much you actually have to play Austin Hedges, and it gives you that flexibility to manage Bo Naylor's workload and keep his bat in the lineup.
Yeah, and like everyone's carrying 3 catchers nowadays. It's the en vogue thing to do.
Yeah.
Like this is what you do. They should be carrying 3 catchers. And let's be honest, there isn't really a great other choice, especially because even if Lavastida comes out and hits 42 home runs in spring training, which isn't going to happen, and I don't know why I picked the number 42, but I did. You then would have to cut someone to add him. So these are the 3 guys. I feel like all 3 guys, in my opinion, with the way things have trended, I think you want to keep all 3 guys because again,
what's he going to do in AAA?
No, and Hedges and Straw are going to be at the end of your bench, and both of them are. I mean, you can't find a worse combination of hitters at the end of a major league bench. So it's one of those things, Fry hit well, and he also helps with some of their balance issues, and he can play, multiple spots. They're very left-handed heavy. He played some outfield. He played some first base. He's played third base in the minors. He's played catcher. He gives you more flexibility as well, which is incredibly important when you just kind of look where this lineup is.
Yeah, I really want to see how Stephen Vogt manages that, because I feel like that was a spot on the roster. It wasn't managed well last year and could have been taken advantage of. And we'll see if Vogt is more open to that. I'm very curious. All right, we talked about Hedges and Vogt. We talked about Bo Naylor, who is down in the minors. We talked a little bit about Ralphy Velazquez with Jeff Ponch yesterday. Let's get more into Ralphie. Let's get more into the wasteland that is Guardians minor league catchers. We might even be able to talk some draft the way things are moving along in today's episode. So all that coming up. Get your tickets to go see Bo Naylor and the gang this season in Cleveland through the Game Time app. Next week, when I get back from spring training, I'm going to a Cavs game on Tuesday, and I bought that through Game Time as a Christmas gift to my wife to get the Kelsey brothers bobblehead night. I was able to get those tickets at a very good price, out the door pricing. So put the tickets in my cart, and I knew the price. I didn't have to worry about fees or what it was going to look like. You don't buy $40 tickets and then wind up with a $200 surcharge like some sites. So they got you covered for sporting events, theater, comedy, concerts, playoff games, all that good stuff. They got last minute ticket deals, and you get views from your seats in the app too. So take the guesswork and the frustration out of the ticket buying experience. Know what your seat looks like. Know what your price is before you purchase everything. And Game Time has the 110% credit difference with the Game Time guarantee. So if you find a ticket in the same section and row for less, they're going to give you 110% of the difference. So if you are a new customer, download the Game Time app, create the account, use our code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. What's the price going to look like to watch Ralphy Velazquez this year? Because I think there's a good chance you're going to see him in Lynchburg to start the year. Maybe he starts the year in extended ball in Arizona, but I got to think that at some point he's going to Lynchburg, whether it's May, June, maybe. They did move up the timeline of the Arizona Complex League this year because of the heat. So that's going to end a little bit earlier, and there's not a lot of options to catch in low A. It's pretty bad. So I think he gets there this year.
Yeah, I don't see much of a point. Right, this is where we're all feeling the crunch of no short season ball. Like,
yes,
that's would have been the ideal for these young catchers and stuff like that. But instead, we don't have that option because owners got cheap. Let's be honest. That's why we don't have the option. Is owners were cheap. So instead, we're stuck in a situation where they cut that. He should be in Lynchburg. The question with him is always going to be, will the bat outpace the glove? And I think, it's like talking with Jeff the other day, us talking that bat ceiling wise might be the best ceiling in the system right now. Like in terms of like reachable ceiling, not in terms of like there's a world where like Chase DeLauder is like a 5-tool guy and whatever, but like reachable potential ceiling, like the odds of it happening, he's probably their best hitter. full package, and he's just probably going to
80
move so
grade
quickly.
makeup.
Yeah, he's got again, which we talked about with Bazana yesterday. It's all of that stuff goes, and I just think that he is. We had someone reach out who's a fan of his about how we were talking bad about him. Like, we're not talking bad. We just think that his bat is so good that catching takes so long that eventually he might move off that position just because of how skilled he is.
Yeah, I don't know how long they'll continue to have him catch. I assume this year for sure it won't change. But I mean, if his bat just starts performing and you're, like Tyler Soderstrom in Oakland, like his bat just came along so quickly that Oakland was like, we're just not going to wait. And, I think everybody thought, like, I'm not saying Ralphy Velazquez is Bryce Harper, but, everybody kind of knew that Bryce Harper was not going to catch because the bat was going to explode, and it did. So I'm not saying Ralphie's going to do that, but that's probably the only thing to watch. Is I don't know if he can catch. I mean, I think Jeff said the arm is fantastic for Ralphie, and again, he's got 80 grade character, which is what you need out of catchers for a kid who's going to have to work to reach that potential. But the bat could be special. Other catching prospects to watch, and I'm sure someone's going to ask, like, what about Lavastida? I just think he is destined to be like a career backup, up and down kind of depth catcher, which nothing wrong with that. That's that you can make a good career being that. Like Sandy Leone is stuck around forever, kind of being that guy at this point. I'm not saying he's going to be Sandy Leone, but you can make a good career doing that. And I think that's Lavastida's thing. And there is some versatility there. Like he might be able to play another position.
Good athleticism.
And, yeah. I think there's a future for him. I just don't think it's here. I just don't think you'll see him again here on the 40.
Yeah. I thought, I mean, I'm still tempted to put him at the back end of the top 30. I thought he had some nice rebound moments. I've always been a big, believer / buyer into his ability. He's in a situation now where he's gotten lapped, and it is unfortunate because you go back to that 2021 year, he had moved ahead of Naylor, and then and then he just health really started to hold him back. And hopefully, I do hope he gets an opportunity somewhere and is able to produce. I think he could be a solid backup because it is that athleticism in the profile.
Absolutely. Other guys to watch this year, Cooper Ingle. I think he'll start at AA. That'll be aggressive if he does. But again, there's not a lot of catching in the system, so I don't see any reason not to. Cody Huff was Baseball America's top catcher in his league last year. He's old for the level. There's not a lot of bat, but there's a future backup in that glove. Johnny Tincher, we think, is probably a future coach, but he'll catch somewhere this year, and they'll rely on him to be kind of a leader for some pitchers. And there's Logan Clark, who I have no idea what to think of because he's older. We haven't seen him, and he was a very weird draft pick.
Yeah, he's an unusual pick for them just because he was like a 19-year-old high school kid.
20.
We know
that. 21 this summer, and he hasn't got a complex ball yet.
Yeah, so he's a very different guy than they normally go for. So, we'll see how it goes there with him. Yeah, I've always kind of doubted if Cooper Ingle can stick a catcher, so I'll be very curious to see that this year. Tincher is also the backflip king. If you've missed that, he can go do that in terms of his athletic profile. But yeah, again, it's better depth than we've seen, but it is still this team could use more catching.
More catching, you say, Jeff. All right, well, we got a couple international guys real quick to keep an eye on. Jose Cedeno, Victor Torres, Pedro Delmargo. Those are just international dudes. Haven't popped yet.
Did you mention Mejia in that one?
Yeah, I'm not really feeling Manuel Mejias right now. He's not looking great. So
he was a big money guy, though, wasn't he?
Maybe, I don't know, but it's
like his Torres and Mejia were money guys.
Yeah, as Torres, I have a better feel for, but no, it was a bad year last year for Mejias, and I don't see it, but we'll see. Draft targets, real quickly before we get out of here, Jeff. I think maybe you said this, maybe Willie said this, but draft catcher every year. It's like drafting a quarterback. You should draft a quarterback every year. You should draft a catcher every year. Yeah, I think that was you. My guys this year are Derek Bender from Coastal. Like, I think he could be a David Fry type. I like Kevin Bazell from Texas Tech. If you want to go really down board, there's Ryan Stafford. We talked yesterday about Arizona State. There's
avoid Arizona State.
Ryan
Campos has a really bad record.
And there's a kid from Bishop Gorman I really like, Berkeley Mavis, who works out with one of the trainers who trains Bryce Harper. So I'm really interested in him. He also goes to Bishop Corman, by the way. So those are the guys that I'm kind of keeping an eye on this year. I'm sure they'll draft a catcher, but like you said, draft one every year.
Yeah, I've always said, and my thing about drafting one every year is go for an elite trait, go for like elite defender, go for high level offensive potential, go for an elite trait and see if you can get to average with the other one, because that's a starter. And if you don't get that, at least you've got a really good backup if you go for one elite trait. That's kind of what they did with Roberto Perez, and he turned into a starter for a few years because the bat was there. So I combine that with you take 1 to 2 every year. I do like Caleb Lomavita at Cal, though I kind of like Rodney Green there better, even though he's the lesser prospect. Lomavita is a really good athlete for that position, and I think way too often what gets underestimated is how good of an athlete you want your catcher to be. Like they can't be the old 1980s me growing up as a kid, like pudgy catcher. That's not the way of it. You want guys who can move, because athleticism equals staying healthy, and catchers get hurt so more often than every other pitcher. So I do kind of like Lomavita's his athleticism. I haven't seen enough catchers yet. So far it's just been like weird senior sign pitchers catching my eye every game I watch. But I will be following through. I will be making lists as it goes on.
Yeah.
But catcher is. Go ahead.
The one thing you said though before we started recording is that you can look at all these prospect lists and you can look at stats for catchers anywhere, but what does it really come down to for Cleveland? It doesn't matter. It's the 80 grade makeup. They want catchers that have leadership quality skills, and it's a defense first. So like all the stats and all the rankings you can go look at, and it's probably not going to matter. Like we both mentioned guys we like, and I don't know if they're going to draft them because it's a lot of the intangible stuff that you can't rank on a board. So like neither of us knew about Johnny Tincher last year. And, we think I don't want to insult the guy. We think he's probably a future coach, but like those are the kind of guys they go after. So, I mean, as much
defense
as you say,
and leadership. So yeah, I'll talk with Taylor and be like, hey, who's the defensive leadership guy in California?
That's true.
He'll let me know. We have so much more to discuss when it comes to positions. We have the prospect draft. We have to make our ultimate pitcher, all that fun stuff. So make sure you're joining us, rating and reviewing, smashing that like button, even writing the word comment. I've been told helps in below. And thank you all for joining us, and go Guardians go. Shout out to all of our everydayers.